In today's most unsurprising development, the European Union and the EU army are escalating their efforts in order to become a nuclear power. Yes, they also want to have deterrence. Okay, what is this story and how did it actually start? Because we've already been talking about the rise of the EU army. We've actually been talking about this for about, 7, 8 years when we were called nutters and tinfoil hats, conspiracy theorists, and all the usual titles. Nick Clegg came out during his debate against Nigel Farage back in, 2014, 15, saying this is never going to happen. They don't want to have any of this in Brussels. But now, not only they have it, the so-called EU Defence Union, not only they dragged us into it, thanks to Theresa May, not only the whole thing is still escalating, even from our side, we are giving away more sovereign rights to the European Defence Union, but now they want to have deterrence. In a world where the so-called liberal, Europhile, pro-EU idiots going around saying, well, I think we should basically disarm everybody. Okay, fair. Disarm at all sides, deterrence gone. I mean, they usually just say the West should do it, not the Easterners. But how is it that the people that they worship, they're going around saying we should actually probably have some sort of deterrence? So alarm bells rang when you got German generals, you got French admirals, you got the former Labour UK Europe minister, and of course also a German former senior foreign policy advisor. They're all getting together jointly to write this article for the Atlantic Council calling for a European nuclear deterrent. And then discussions start to be had in Brussels. At the same time, the European media decided to completely deny any of this. And they're saying, well, actually, initially, it was just an article. Fine. Everybody's ignored it. And then you have senior people talking about it. A lot of people have already been calling for this to happen. But yet, no scrutiny. No, absolutely no scrutiny. So what is this article? Because again, these guys got together saying, well, Europe needs a nuclear deterrent of its own. It's the same argument that they used for the EU Defence Union in the first place. The whole idea was, they brought up the EU army as an idea. They said, well, we have to be up against not just the Easterners, but also NATO. Considering a lot of the member states in the European Union are members of NATO. So there's now a clash between the Western globalists and the other Western globalists. So we got basically the Americans who want to be the world police. Idiots, because that didn't go well. And then you have the European Union elite who want to police the world, because they no longer just see, for example, Russia or China as rivals. They openly see America as rivals. So I can see a point, not to defend them, but they don't want freedom. They don't want national sovereignties. They want to replace America as the world police. That's the idea. Anyway, part of this article said, to stay safe against Russian and other aggression in the future, very subtle, Europe will need a convincing conventional and nuclear deterrent of its own, and Germany will be key. Great, bring Germany into it. And what could go wrong? The invasion of February 2022 opened many eyes, but the biggest awakening took place in Germany. It's never good when there's an awakening in Germany. I can assure you, especially when it comes to anything that is armed. Now, the idea behind, for example, NATO contribution, when you had Donald Trump, President Trump at the time, going around saying Germany and these countries who are going around begging America to help them, they're not contributing to NATO. So what's the point of having America policing the world? Because they were supposed to be an equal partnership, but it's not. It's absolutely not. So now you have people in this country who are also kicking off. There are a number of Tories, including Mark Francois, who has an experience when it comes to defence, came out and said, well, the EU already has a flag, an anthem, a currency, a parliament, a civil service, a border force, and now they want the nuke as well. Even more, some of them would quite like our nuke. Yeah, that's why they want to get Scotland. Without, of course, paying a penny towards it. The arrogance of these people is just breathtaking. Yeah, I'm absolutely fascinated by the way people like Mark Francois will get ignored in the UK Parliament every time they come out to talk about the truth. Because again, the new versions of Nick Clegg's, they are coming out and deny everything that actually eventually happens in reality. So Francois told the Express that Britain has its own independent nuclear deterrent and should not surrender it. If our experience of leaving the EU has taught us anything, it should be that an increasingly dangerous world, we should not be relying on the support of countries that have been so obstructive to the realization of the will of the British people. That's a good point. These people, they claimed initially to be our good and loyal and partners and neighbors, right? But in reality, the moment we voted to leave the European Union, they showed their true face. Macron going around hugging our prime ministers, successive prime ministers at the same time, he didn't help us. Not just with the fisheries, he didn't help us with the border control. He even tried to interfere with the Northern Ireland Protocol. It's nothing to do with you, Macron, but somehow you get involved with everything. So these are the people we're dealing with. And then you got Ramonas going around saying, but it's nice to be in a single market because you have some trade. The trade is already happening. And if you're talking about, well, there's some extra paperwork, welcome to the adult life. This is the real world. Get used to it. Now, we're going to be talking about all this over the next few days because I have a feeling there's going to be some reactions to it from the Europeans in Brussels. But we're also going to be talking about this together on Sunday, this Sunday, 23rd of July. We're going to have our 300,000 subscribers party. And the reason I said we're going to talk about it is because hopefully we're going to have Andrew Bridgen also joining us as a special guest. And hopefully we're going to get a couple of surprise guests as well if you want to come and talk about this with Andrew and with myself and ask any other questions that you might have. The link is in the description. Make sure to book your tickets as soon as possible. I'm Mahyar Tousi, and we are the media.